games seriously, whether it's home or away. They've started the season very well, very strong team. They've got really good attributes in their play, very, very good from set plays, really, really strong. Very well organised defensively. They've been excellent in their own league this year. They've been watertight. So we've got a challenge to, of course, break them down and to create chances, but also nullify their physical strength.
Thank you. Nisha?
Morning, Eddie. Razor touched on it there, giving a chance for players who haven't had minutes to play. I just wondered about Miguel Almiron. How has he been with not getting minutes, and is this potentially an opportunity for him?
Miggy will be like every other player in the squad that wants to play, wants to influence, wants to make a difference with his qualities. Miggy's really highly valued by all of us. I think it's been difficult to get him the minutes that he would crave early season, but this is a big moment for him to show his qualities. Outstanding player and outstanding athlete, someone that's made a huge contribution to our success in recent years, and someone we'd love to see play well.
Just reflecting a bit on the Man City game, is there a sense of relief that that performance that you were waiting for, it finally came?
I think there's always a feeling of, loads of different emotions going into every game, before and after. That was it was an intense period in the lead up to the game. As I said last week, we had a strong sort of reflection on our start to the season. I think we are very honest with each other, players and staff. We know what we're capable of, and that was much more like ourselves against Manchester City. It was a great environment created by the supporters. I think we rose to that occasion. And now the challenge is to find that consistently and to try and hit those individual performances and collective performances on a consistent basis.
You mentioned there how important the cups are. I guess have you had a really strong talk with the players, because you obviously made the final a couple of seasons ago, and where the club is and where they could finish in the Premier League, obviously the cups are the main chance of silverware, really.
Yeah, a strong word with the players. I think we set our objectives out early season, pre-season really, in terms of where we want the squad to be. And I think where I want the squad to be is, regardless of our opposition, regardless of the competition, the attitude is the same. We attack the game, we show we want to win, and we have to deliver all the fundamentals towards that objective. I'm not the type of manager that will sort of prioritise games. Every game is hugely important. I don't think you can prioritise games. Of course we want to get through, we want to win, and we want to win well, and we want to play well. That's always the challenge.
And just finally from me, in terms of giving minutes to players that haven't played, does that apply to your goalkeepers as well? Because obviously there are a few, and we've seen Nick Pope this season. Will it be an opportunity for your other goalkeepers to play potentially?
We'll have to make the right decisions. We'll have to get the balance right of the team, as I said. It's a blank canvas, really. I'll look at it and try and pick the right players for this game.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Nisha. Damien?
Eddie, just talking about the keepers there, I mean, is it a quirk of the situation you found yourself in, the summer, that you've ended up with so many goalkeepers who are competing for that? Like Blackadamus hasn't made the matchday squad yet. Is that one of the difficulties of the position you found yourselves in?
I think it's fair to say that it's quite unusual to have that number of established goalkeepers, and we have that position. But I think we found last year, to our cost, injuries to goalkeepers can have a really detrimental effect on your season. So look, we've got the strength and depth in that position. We'll enjoy having that strength, and all the goalkeepers are training well. Their attitudes have been excellent. They're all supporting Nick at the moment, who started the season very well. So I'm enjoying seeing that battle for places.
And as Nisha mentioned, 2 seasons ago you made the final in this competition. Was that run, did that sort of reinforce the belief that this club can do something special over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, the early rounds were very difficult that season, and I think we survived difficult to think back to all the rounds, but I think we survived the penalty shootout within that. Very fine margins. We managed to battle our way through a couple of difficult rounds. And then I think it built up. And I think you get to the quarterfinal, the semi-final was, the semi-final 2 games were really memorable for us. And then, of course, you've got a chance to win a trophy. So I think the early rounds are hugely important. You can't take anything lightly. We know how difficult every game is. So this is really where you set the opportunity to potentially win a trophy. So we take tomorrow with the utmost importance.
Thanks, Damien. Go to Lee Ryder and then Dominic.
Morning, Eddie.
Lovely.
On Wimbledon, I mean, obviously you've got them up here and showed them some hospitality with the ground. Where does that hospitality sort of end?
Well, I think the most important thing from our perspective is the players are professional, and we don't underestimate anybody, and I certainly don't because of my background. When we were in League One, League Two, in our early coaching days, these were unbelievable opportunities to test the team that we had then against the team from a higher league, and all the rewards that came with that, both financial and for the players. So I know how motivated Wimbledon will be for this. We need to make sure there's no come down really from the Manchester City game, because they're polar opposites in terms of games. You couldn't get more contrasting. But what needs to be consistent is, as I said earlier, is our attitude and our performance level. So that's what we'll be looking for the players to deliver.
Just in terms of your preparation, I mean, obviously I'm sure you are prepared, but the fans, give them some insight on how much research you do into it. I mean, do you know as much about the Wimbledon right back as you do about Kyle Walker or someone like that at Man City?
Well, it's a little bit more difficult because, of course, with someone like Kyle Walker, you'll come up against him historically and you'll build a better understanding, of course, from playing against these players on a consistent basis. I think I said again on Friday that one of the beauties of being in the same league as great players and great coaches is hopefully with every game you play against them, you find out a little bit more about your team, or whether it be a tactical point. I think this is one of the beauties of this game, is it's a one-off game, and our detailed analysis is brilliant. We have a team of people that unearth everything that we feel is relevant to our preparation. I will always watch the opposition several times, regardless of how well I know them, because teams change. But of course, with this situation, it's about finding out about Wimbledon, really. And as I said, they've started the season very well. They've been hugely impressive, and we're going to need to play well.
And just on the goalkeepers, obviously, Nick Pope played in the last round at Nottingham Forest. What's your sort of selection policy going into this game? Does someone else come in because it's lower league?
We take it game by game. There's not a set format for a competition. It's what's going to be the best thing for the squad, for the players, and for the team. So that's the decisions that we'll try to make.
Thanks, Lee. Dominic?
Morning, Eddie. You touched on him last week, but Matt Targett, his situation, could he be back available for you tomorrow?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a little bit too early for Matt. He's still very early stages of training. At the moment, he feels good, but I don't think he'll make this game.
He was close to playing a month ago. He played on the pitch just behind you back in August. Out for a spell again, almost a year out. Just how difficult is it being for him this past 12 months? Yeah,
it's been tough for Matt, because I think, previous to those spells out, he'd been a really reliable performer for us. He'd been someone who had come in during a relegation battle and really solidified that left-back position. He was someone that consistently played to a really high level, very, very consistent, really good professional. So this has been a really difficult time for him, without a shadow of a doubt. That the time that he spent injured has been hugely frustrating for him and for us, because we've missed a very, very good player. Matt is technically, for me, one of the best players in the squad. So we've really missed him. We'd love to get him back fit on a consistent basis. The last problem that he's had has been a difficult one to take, on top of the other episodes that he's had. So fingers crossed now we can get him back for a sustained period.
Thanks, Tom. Good. Craig and then Chris.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
With regards to Alex, there was a lot of talk last season about players who were injured coming back, and there was recurring injuries. Obviously, there's been changes above you this season in terms of James Bunce coming in. We're led to believe that is meant to sort of look at that. One of those areas is the injuries and the return to play programme. On Alex, is there a concern or a danger that playing at Fulham did do him? It wasn't good for him. Where is he at? With regards to that toe injury and injections and everything else.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would be the case. I think it was one of those situations where if he could tolerate the pain, he'd be fine. And I think he tolerated the pain for, as I said, I think it was about 80 minutes of the game before he became aware of any feeling back in that toe. But it was either going to be he was going to be out for probably until after the international break initially, or he could carry on playing as normal if he could tolerate the feelings and the effects of the injury. Now, he hasn't been able to do that, so we're back to the original diagnosis, I think.
Which would be after the international break?
Possibly, yeah.
On Willisula as well, can you just tell us, going back to when he came in, thinking what you saw in him, and how close is he now to being, I know it's the Carabao Cup tomorrow, but to being a Premier League player as well?
Yeah, I think, as I say all the time with new signings, there is a process these players have to go through, depending on their respective pathways and how they get to this point. So with Will, he's come in, and we were well aware that we would have to go to work as coaches, and Will would have to go to work as the player to develop himself, to improve every area of his game to become a Premier League striker. We feel he has the attributes to do that. Very, very quick, physically excellent. Obviously, he's tall, imposing character. Probably his best asset is running in behind and stretching the line for us. He's got some things to smoothen out in his game, but we've seen already, certainly from the battles he's had against our centre-halves in training, he has an ability to score goals, and he has an ability to have a physical impact in the game and really make it uncomfortable for defenders. So we're working hard with him. He's working hard himself. His attitude's been excellent. Comes in with a big smile on his face every day. So his career in his game, I think, is going in the right direction.
Thanks, Craig. Good. Chris, then Kieran.
Morning, Eddie. You mentioned that Alex is likely to be out till after the international break. What's the timescale for Callum Wilson's return? Will he be back after the international break?
Yeah, I mean, with Alex, we've not ruled him out. We're sort of assessing him on a daily basis, because there is a chance he could be fit for Everton if everything falls into place. Of course, then we have a decision to make. Does he play in that game, or do we leave him knowing that it'd be okay 2 weeks afterwards? Callum Wilson's on track to be fit for after the international break, along with hopefully Louis Miley. Just thinking I've left anyone out. No, I think that's pretty much where we are with those guys, and of course Sven and Jamal are a little bit further back, but hopefully some good news on the horizon. But until they're back fully, it's difficult to promise that.
And how much have you lost by not having this sort of competition between Alex and Callum? Because obviously we saw towards certainly the back end of the 2022-23 season how much they push one another. How much are you looking forward to hopefully having that back soon?
Yeah, I think it's been a dynamic that we have certainly missed, and I think the players have missed themselves. Almost last year they were dovetailing. One was fit, one was missing out, and we never sort of got the strength of having both available. I think there was, you might tell me differently, but the Burnley game sticks in my head towards the back end of last season. We had them both and used them both, and they were excellent together. But it's a dynamic that we need, and I think the players need, whether that's for rotation, so they're both fit and fresh when they play, or whether it's the competition, because two outstanding players fighting for one role can only benefit the performances, I think.
Thanks, Chris. Kieran?
Morning, Eddie. Anthony Gordon has said he does not need any persuading to stay here. How important after a difficult summer is it for Newcastle to keep players like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice thing to hear. I think it's hugely important. I've said many times how important it is that we keep our current players fulfilled, happy. And I think we can do that a number of ways. Of course, the main way for me is to keep progressing and improving, and the ambition of the club remains really strong. I think players, if they can see that, will commit their futures because they feel we're going in the right direction as a club. Anthony's best years are ahead of him. I think he proved again on Saturday how good he is and how good he can be. Still feel there's more to come. And also the versatility, that ability to play different attacking roles can only serve us well with a small squad that we have. So I was delighted with him. I was delighted with the love that he got from the supporters. That feeling and that bond is so important. So really big thank you to the supporters for that.
I suppose one way a club can show ambition is in the transfer market, maybe with a big name arrival. Do you feel key players like that can still see the ambition, as you say?
Well, that's important that we show that, and I think players need to feel that we are continually improving in what is a league that is always improving and never standing still. So that's certainly something for us to think about and consider as we continue through different transfer windows.
Thanks, Kieran. Dom Shaw?
Hi Eddie, just on Alex, will he be going away with Sweden still?
Well, that'll be a decision that we'll have to make, depending on how he looks coming into the international break.
I presume though, given what he's going through at the minute, you prefer he didn't. Would that be fair to say?
It all depends on if he's fit or if he's not fit. Fingers crossed he can be, and he can be involved against Everton, and then he can go with his international team.
Just ask one on Lewis Hall. How much has he come on over the course of the last 12 months, and what does he have to do to take his game to the next level?
Yeah, he's done really well. I've been really pleased with Lewis. I think, like I said earlier, there's always a process, and sometimes I understand supporters and media that they want sort of instant results. Someone that you sign, you want to instantly see them on the pitch, but it's our job to make the right decision for the player and for the team, and sometimes that means a process where you take the player away, you do a lot of work with them and try and get certain aspects of their game to the level you feel required. So going back to Willisula, there's a lot of work going on every single day with him, but most importantly, you've got to have the raw ingredients and the right player to develop. Lewis was excellent last year behind the scenes. His attitude to his work was very, very good, and no doubt he would have had frustrating days and disappointing weeks. But I think he's seeing and reaping the benefits of that now, because I think his game's in a really good place. I would argue that's probably his best performance for us since he's arrived at the club. Against Manchester City, I thought he looked composed, really composed with the ball, made some very good decisions, and defended really well against world-class players in lots of potentially difficult situations. I thought he navigated some situations really, really well. So very pleased with him. But it does go to show there's no substitute for hard work and coaching. I'm a big believer in that area.
Thanks, Tom. Go to Gary and then Martin.
Morning, Eddie. Just going back to Anthony Gordon, since Saturday and before that, obviously, as well. Quite a few pundits are saying, Joe Cole was speaking highly how he could see him taking over from Harry Kane with England. Where do you see Anthony Gordon in 4, 5, 6 years' time? Do you think it as forward or?
In positionally, you mean?
Yeah.
I'd probably still say his best position is as a left winger. Currently, if someone were to say, give me that question that you have, but he can and does have the ability to play different roles, number 9 being one of them, and he can play it very, very well. But it is different for him, and I think you could see a few moments on Saturday where he's receiving the ball totally square with his back to goal. That's a totally different skill to receiving the ball side on like he does as a winger. And you would need work and time to develop those skills, which I'm sure he could if trained there on a consistent basis. But I think he has so many great skills as a winger. His ability to play 1v1, his decision making in wide areas is as good as there is, I think, in the Premier League, in my opinion. So we've got to be careful before changing that too much.
You seem to relish the responsibility you got on Saturdays as well, and you'll know him obviously a lot better than most people. He's got all the skills in the world, but mentally, is he ready to become a key man for club and country?
Well, I think he's shown that mentally, last year, because very difficult in this league to be consistently good, because teams will work you out or try and come up with plans against you, and then you've got to find a solution to those plans. So Anthony's done that very, very well, I think. Mentally, he's really matured, in my opinion, since he's come here. Just the natural process of playing every week and international call-ups. Naturally, you go through that. It's not easy to survive in those worlds. You've got to be really mentally tough to do it. And I've been hugely impressed with how he's adapted to all the challenges that he's faced, and no doubt will continue to have. But his personal life is in a really stable, healthy position that helps him. He's got a really tight-knit family and really good support group, which when he needs advice he can turn to, and they certainly help him be able to perform at the level that he's at.
Thanks, Gary. Martin Hardy?
Hi, Eddie. Anthony, like a few others, was linked with moves away from the club in the summer, and I think you've touched upon it about how that was a difficult period for them and perhaps for the squad. How important was it to reset and refocus him?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think there was a sort of a resetting moment or a refocusing moment. It was more, I think, for Anthony getting the fitness that he'd missed. As I said, the summer was difficult for him because not only did he not play in the Euros, that has a physical cost. You know, he hadn't played for a long period of time. Then he had a really short pre-season with us. So last week we did a lot of work with him, and he looked a lot better for that, and we'll continue to do that. Yes, he had the 2 games with England this time during the international break, which would have helped him. So I think it was more that than any transfer speculation.
And do you see him as an England regular?
I don't think it matters what I think, to be honest. It's about the England manager and what team he picks. But certainly he's doing himself no harm currently, and with his last performances with England, where I thought he was very good.
And it's like change of track. You mentioned about being a League 2 manager. What's the biggest difference between being a Premier League manager and being a League 2 manager? And what's the biggest thing you miss from those days?
I think it's you lot that's the biggest difference, to be honest. Certainly a lot more scrutiny, I think, and a lot more sort of outside noise. The job itself is always about you and the players. Regardless of what level you're at, it's you coaching the players, helping the players try and produce their best performance in a weekend. That part of it, I think, is very, very similar, but everything around it is totally different. What do I miss? I think I probably that it's a much smaller circle. I think when you're in League 2 and League 1 and you're building your way up, I think you have a lot smaller staff. You have a lot more time with the players, really, because here there's a lot of support staff who do an unbelievable job and help the players in so many different ways. But because of that, you lose some contact time. So it's probably that I miss the most.
I thought you were going to say short, quiet press conferences there.
Well, I couldn't say that. I'd said it. I'd alluded to it. I didn't want to go the whole hog.
Louise, to finish.
Hi, Eddie. With Anthony Gordon, back in the summer in the Euros, when all the Liverpool stuff was going and this provisional medical in Leipzig was talked about, were you in contact with Gareth Southgate? I mean, did you have some chats on the phone about what was going on and handling him? No
chats with Gareth. Gareth had enough on his plate. I think that story, not that I paid too much attention to it, but was slightly overblown in my knowledge of it. So I think Anthony was fine, and I think Gareth was fine.
And you must have been alarmed when he fell off his bike, his electric bike, when he was.
Yeah, I was alarmed when I saw the pictures, and but I think in those moments I've always said that I try and leave the players alone. I try and let them concentrate on the work that they have, and the tactical information they're getting from their national team manager is much more valuable than me getting in the way. So, of course, asked about Anthony's welfare after that fall off the bike. It was a slightly unusual one.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
See
you
tomorrow.
Cheers.